I'm real interested in vernacular cultures, where people lived a little closer to the source of materials and the making of objects for use. I'm real interested in trades, in ways that people make things which are not necessarily artistic. I mean, they're artistic in the sense that they can have formal beauty, but they're not done with an artistic motive. They're done often with a utilitarian motive. As a woodworker, I use tools all the time, and there's a certain art history to the evolution of woodworking tools in itself.
These are the carving tools, either scoop.
I mean, you look at the forms that various utilitarian things have taken throughout history, and there's a whole sort of shifting sense of beauty. It is a ladder. It's made like a ladder. It's made like country ladders you see in places where people would cut a tree trunk in half and put rungs between the two halves, and that's a ladder. The title came after the work was finished. I didn't set out to make a work about Booker T. Washington. The work was really about using a sapling, using a tree, and making a work that had a kind of artificial perspective, a forced perspective, that made it appear to recede into space faster than it in fact does. That really was what the work is about for me, is this kind of artificial perspective. It's an idea that requires a certain actual length. It's a piece that couldn't have been done small. As it was 36 feet long. The idea of Booker T. Washington, the resonance with his life and his struggle, and the whole notion that his idea of progress for the race was a long, slow progression of, as he said, putting your buckets down where you are and working with what you've got. And so it really is a question of like the view from where you start and the end, the goal. And I really, this is something I don't really want to elaborate on too much, because I think it's in the work. I came from a generation where the work was itself the information. So there remains this belief that the work itself can have an identity that can hopefully speak. Whether it's through beauty or through ugliness or whatever quality you put into the work, that is what the work can be about. The work doesn't have to be a transparent vehicle for you to say things about life today or what you see people doing to each other or things like that. I'm making a case for my own vision. It can actually move in a direction that has got some representational tendencies, or at least some elusive tendencies, or some kind of tendencies that are very suggestive.
Has it been 8 years? Have you been back since? I haven't been back. This is my first visit since it was finished.
I wanted to do something which was like a folly, like an architectural folly, which I think it ended up being. Just was an attempt to make a work that had literally had two sides. That there's a grotto, like half of this experience that you can look into, you can peer into, but never really enter. It's mysterious, hopefully mysterious.
You have to get down real low, and there has to be a lot of ambient light to blow into.
And then there's the other side of it that's very much a projection into space. It's a kind of more aggressive, if you will, masculine side. And the two are divided by a wall. And I was very interested in working with stone. The idea of real permanence was important to me.
Left and right.
And the idea of making shapes out of that material, stone shapes in space that aren't about straight walls and 90-degree corners.
I know the stonemasons loved the idea of it. When they were here working on it, they said this is their favorite part. When they got here and they got to the window to do things other than a traditional stone
Right,
wall they're doing.
right.
So there's that false arch that's over here and...
You have those maquettes?
oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Oh, it's all
okay,
of it saved
okay.
as part of the
'Cause
archive.
we're
Stephen always gets extremely involved in these projects as a troubleshooter. And it almost seems that the more complicated the project, the more fascinating it becomes for Stephen. It doesn't seem to at all put him off. It just sort of makes him dig deeper and deeper into it and just use all of his contractor's instincts.
Most of the visitors like to take the pictures from this side so they get this, get through the shot through the window.
Stone doesn't want to go out over
And when we
space.
pick the olives,
And this piece cantilevers out to about 5 feet.
really.
And so it took some serious engineering to allow that to happen safely. And through Stephen's work, he knew of a very, very good stoneworker, Eugene Domenicali. And he was a crucial part of this whole process.
He didn't let many people lay
I think he did the whole dome himself.
He did this, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a funny thing about how we could get this shape right, because
Yes.
he wanted to look at the model and just eyeball it. Remember that?
Right.
And I said, Gene, I think we should have some kind of
A gauge.
of a gauge.
I've learned that
And I suggested,
there's a lot of
"No, we don't need that.
know-how out there that's really nice to collaborate with and use. And I guess what I have learned is how to give up some of the control that I felt I had to have over every single aspect of it, because there's sometimes the other people's input can actually open up your thinking to possibilities that you weren't even aware of. I think of it as a monolith, although it is made from 18 stones, but it's really carved in a way so that it becomes a contoured single object. It certainly suggests a head, a colossal head. And I've done various pieces in the past that have been based on that same idea of an enormous head. And I've been wanting to do something in stone using this kind of form for a long time. I have spent most of my working life making work that may seem to be carved, but which in fact is constructed, made from parts and put together. And although this was made from 18 blocks assembled, essentially the process of shaping the blocks was one of carving from solid material. And I've never carved stone. I haven't carved stone since I left college, really. And when I got notified that there was an interest in having a commission of mine in Japan, the choice of material was in some ways suggested by the fact that it was Japan, because they have such a tradition of working with stone there. One of the major challenges was just the sheer scale of it, the sheer size of working with blocks that large, finding blocks that large. They had to be located in a very remote part of China and then brought to Xiamen on the coast, where they were worked in a city that has a very, very large stone industry. With a piece of the scale, the carving requires diamond tools and water to do it efficiently. So I had to find a way to really transmit my ideas to artisans, which required making the model at 1/10 scale. The model could be disassembled, and the tracings made of each block, and those tracings could be enlarged 10 times, and that's the basis that they used for making the final piece. In China, it was a little complicated because I had to translate in 2 stages.
You see how here it goes in together. It may not.
I had a person with me who spoke Japanese and English,
It will be correct here, and be correct here.
and the person in the stone yard spoke fluent Japanese, and he was Chinese. So it had to go from my person from Japan into Chinese. The piece was in fact carved much more than I had anticipated in China. The actual contour of the outside was thought to be done in Japan. It turns out that that work was largely done in China. That's why I had to go to China to see the work in progress.
This can't be a straight line.
The work was then delivered to the site in Japan. I was introduced to this man, Mr. Okazaki, who had worked with sculptors a lot, done a lot of carving for various sculptors, Japanese sculptors, and very, very proud person in terms of his workmanship and the respect that he had for his work, just his abilities. Once the pieces were assembled, the shaping continued. There was a week's worth of carving on site. Mr. Okazaki and his son did most of the carving with hand chisels and diamond saws, but the shaping was mostly done with hand chisels because of the surface I wanted. I didn't want a surface that was in any way ground or polished. It had to have marks of the chisel.
Thank you. Thank you in advance.
It doesn't look natural. It's a very man-made surface. It has pock marks from the blows of each sharp chisel. Contours are quite smooth and quite continuous, but run your hand over it and it feels like you're running it over a very rough rock. I think I do deal in forms that people often see something organic and derived from nature, and I'm certainly interested in nature. I'm real fascinated by natural forms and natural processes, but I'm probably more interested in the way cultural forms evolve, the making process itself, and the history of the making process for me has always been a big generator of ideas.
To learn more about Art 21, Art in the 21st Century, and to download the free Educator's Guide, please visit PBS online at pbs.org. Art 21, Art in the 21st Century is available on videocassette or DVD. The companion book to the series is also available. To order, call PBS Home Video at 1-800-PLAY-PBS.